Thank y'all for coming out tonight. We may have a few more that stumbles in, but I want to go ahead and get started so we give ourselves as much time as we can. Our goal tonight is to talk about childhood, to talk about what it looks like to raise children in a rapidly changing world. But rather than begin with a verse about childhood, I want to begin with a verse in Proverbs 3, verse 7. It says, "Be not wise in your own eyes, fear the Lord and turn away from evil." So much of parenting really has to do with wisdom. And tonight, a lot of what we're going to talk about is just wisdom. And the reason wisdom gets involved is wisdom has to get involved when we get into areas where the Bible doesn't speak specifically, right? So the Bible doesn't explicitly talk to us about something like the internet or our cell phone use. But when we consider sort of a holistic approach to what God's Word teaches us, then we can develop some pretty good standards for how we get there. So if you'll allow me, I'm going to pray, and then I will introduce my helper, and then we will get started. So let's pray together. Thank you, God, for loving us, and thank you for an opportunity to dig into some facts and some trends, Lord God, to consider perhaps, Lord, how we may collectively work more diligently to raise our children, Father God, so that they can walk as wise as serpents and live, Lord God, as innocently even as doves. God, I pray that you would guide us in our conversations. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so I am glad that you're here. I'm Craig. Most of you know that. This is Angela, and not all of you know that. She's my wife, and she is uniquely qualified to participate in this conversation this evening because as much as I work with kids and teenagers and all the other things, she does that and then some as a social worker in our school district. So what we're going to talk with you about tonight is some subject matter that's near and dear to both of our hearts, which is how can we help our kids to thrive. So she's going to start by giving you guys a little bit of hope before we get into all the ugly details. And y'all be kind to her because being up here is way outside of her comfort zone. So you've already lost your microphone. Do you need help?
Mm-mm. No, but you didn't tell me I was starting.
Oh, well, you're starting.
That would have been...
We discussed it at lunch today. You said you wanted to give hope, and you were afraid that I would be the bearer of all the bad news.
Okay, all right.
Do you disagree with that statement?
Part of it, yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay. What I said to him when we met at 11:45, which is the time we were supposed to meet, not 11:30, because that's also what you said. Yeah. Was that I didn't want this to be just such a negative conversation. I want to make sure that this isn't doom and gloom, and we're not just having a whole night of us sitting here talking about like all these terrible bad numbers and the bad things, that there is hope. And so there is research that shows that there's hope, not just from religious folk, but also some secular research that shows that there's hope. But as believers, we have an even greater hope. And so we need to make sure that we hold on to that more than anything, because we know that this is not our home, which is something that we've, talked about with recent sermons and stuff. So that's why, these things feel so strange, because we want it to be better, because this is not our permanent place. So just know that there is hope and that change can happen. And there are things that we can put in place as a community. And also, because you're a part of this community, there is hope in that as well. Because the research does show that those students and families that are involved in communities, especially those of believers, have a better connection, better mental health, better everything. So, yay, y'all are already winning.
All right, now that we got the good news out of the way, let me talk to you about the bad stuff. We're gathered in large part because we find ourselves in a bit of a crisis. And when I say that, we're going to throw up a few stats for you. Kids and even young adults today struggle. They struggle to be strong. They struggle to be resilient. A couple of statistics that we're going to throw up for you. Since 2010, so everybody likes to talk about COVID, but we're really not talking about since 2020. COVID became a blip on the radar, but we're talking about things that have been going on in our culture for nearly 15 years at this point in time. Since 2010, major depressive episodes among teen girls have increased by 145% and 161% among guys. Anxiety and depression has more than doubled since 2010 among college students. ER visits for self-esteem, I don't even know what that is, all right? But it has increased by 188% among girls. I thought we had some, do we not have slides for some of these? I thought we did. Suicide rates for younger adolescents is up 10 to 14, or excuse me, is up 91%. Younger adolescents means 10 to 14. Suicide rates for, that's for boys, and for girls is up 167%.
And, oops, sorry. Just this week, I have been impacted by 3 different young people that have committed suicide. And then from my work experience, and those were all like young adults. And then today I was discussing a child in an elementary school for a suicide screening. So just know that these are things that are not just happening outside in a way. This is stuff that's happening here in Kershaw County.
This giant bottle is going to create self-harm for me in a moment. You almost knocked it over on me. Moving on. But even, so some of y'all hear those things and we don't have any of those big scary things. Let me give you a couple other things that we're seeing. Daily time with friends for 15 to 24-year-olds decreased 70% from 2003 to 2019. Okay? In 2003, kids were spending on average about 144 minutes per day with their friends. In 2019, that number dropped, and that's 2019. Since then, it's probably lower because COVID drove everybody inside, drove everybody to their devices, and created even more separation. And then this one, there is a decline in engagement in adult activities. The desire to get a driver's license decreased 39% from 1978 to 2018, right? So in the 70s, late 70s, 93% of kids got their license when they turned 15. Today, that number has dropped to less than 60% of teenagers. David Branham's in here, and he can tell you he's got a whole lot of 15-year-olds that don't even have a desire to grow up anymore. And we're just missing that. The world is shifting, and in many ways, it just doesn't feel like it's better. And so big part of why we're here today is to talk about the fact that we've got some opportunities. And we're going to talk about these opportunities in 2 ways tonight. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about 7 Strong, and we're going to do that in just a moment. And then we're going to really dig into some of the things that Jonathan Haidt has to say in a book that he wrote called The Anxious Generation. One of the reasons we're going to talk about 7 Strong is because we believe it's important, it matters, and we believe it matters so much that Adam and I, Ginger has moved the world to get a lot of this stuff done. We have been training across our county with 7 Strong for the past few weeks. I've been trying to sell it and peddle it to everybody that'll buy it, in large part because we're seeing it work. I did a podcast that I'll push out in the next day or 2 with a couple of our teenage girls that are talking about how it changed their life. They were doing everything else right, but it changed their life when they began to do a lot of the other things and to get to a place. So 7 Strong is basically what we've encouraged for your kids to do for a long time. I think y'all all got one of these cards when you came in. If you didn't, we got one for you. On the back of this, you've got all the 7 things. I want to walk you through those real quick. So just know we're going to drink from a fire hose for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to slow it down, okay? But I got to hurry because we only have an hour, and she or I could either one talk about all of these things for an hour all by ourselves. And so we're trying to get to a spot. We talk about 7 Strong. There's 7 things that we want you and your kids to do every single day. And our teachers and our schools are implementing these across Kershaw County. David Branham, they're doing this at North Central High School. They're doing this at some of our middle schools. They're doing this at a lot of our elementary schools. Some of your kids that came to middle school right now, your kids are getting this in their training. At some of our elementary schools, they're doing their leadership labs. The first thing is we want you to read something every single day rooted in truth. I can't walk into a school and tell them to read their Bible, all right? I'm telling y'all, read your Bible every day. That's what's got to happen. We've got to be in the Word every single day. This just makes sense. That's just what we're supposed to do. You need to spend time every day in prayer. And if you'll do that, good things will happen in your life. It's amazing how that communion with the Lord impacts your overall mental health. It impacts your relationship with others, your fellowship with the Lord, right? Because you're living not only in fellowship, but living in obedience. Number 3, we want you and your kids to be around people who are good for them. Be around the right kind of people. That's why church matters so much. Y'all are all here on Wednesday night. This is why Wednesday night church matters, right? This is why you fight to get your 3rd grader, your 3-year-old, and your 16-year-old to church on Wednesday nights. Because when you get them here in the middle of the week, even though it's difficult, you put them around the right kind of people. The kind of people who want what's best for them. So you put them in the culture and the community that you want them to be a part of. Okay? So be around the right people. Eat. Yep.
It's also why life group matters. So if you're not a part of a life group, you really need to get plugged in.
I was on a roll.
You really need to get to be a part of a life group, because that's where a lot of our ministry happens. That's where people don't fall through the cracks. That's where you get loved on. We've said for years, when we had our first foster child, I didn't cook for 6 weeks because people came in and loved on us. I mean, if I wanted to.
She didn't cook the 6 weeks before either.
Keep it up and I won't cook for 6 weeks now. Anyway, go ahead on your roll.
Eat healthy foods. It's easy at my house because there's nothing. So you just sort of snack on the little lettuce leaves that Angela leaves laying for me. But seriously, like, we don't talk about this in the church because we're focused on the gospel, as we should be. But here's what we can't do, is have a theology that separates these bodies that God's given to us as his temple from the soul and the spiritual experience that we have. We are not souls that are trapped in these bodies. We are embodied humans, embodied people, and God's given us these. So this temple, we have a responsibility to care for. That means eat the right stuff, all right? We don't talk about it in the church a whole lot, but it matters, and we need to talk about it, okay? Sleep 7-8 hours a day. Most of y'all work hard to get that. Most of your kids don't unless we make them do it. You want to figure out why your kids aren't behaving? If they're not sleeping at night, you're going to have problems with your kids, okay? Sleep 7-8 hours, exercise for half an hour a day, and get outside for half an hour a day. The podcast I was talking about with one of our girls, it's Stella Miller. That's not a secret because we're going to put that out publicly. Stella finished 2nd in her class at Camden this year. She's as good as we got. She is as good a kid as we have. Absolutely stellar. Stella is stellar. But she found herself just struggling. And went through a period of time where she was just, her words, just frustrated and couldn't figure out what was wrong with her life. She was reading her Bible, she was praying, she was showing up at church, but she was living kind of like a vampire. She was just staying holed up in her house, not getting outside, not getting any sunshine, not going for a walk. I don't know if it's me or Adam, one of us, you need to get out of your house. You need to go for a walk every day, see if something changed in your life. And so she tells the story. She says, I got mad, so I went for a walk just to prove y'all wrong. And she marched out of her house and walked down the road and spent her 30 minutes getting her walk in with her earbuds in. Her neighbor came out and tried to go for a walk with her, and she was so mad she ignored her neighbor and kept right on walking. The problem that happened for her, though, is that as she spent time getting out and walking in the sun, everything in her life got a little bit better. Everything got a little bit better when she did that. And now she's become like one of our greatest advocates for this program because it changed her life. The best among us struggled when we didn't give them a fence. We didn't give them a plan. And so tonight we have 2 purposes. And number one, I guess more than 2, but one of the big things we want to do is we want to talk to you guys about the steps that your kids can take to be stronger and more resilient, right? And as you need to know that as a student ministry, as a pastor, across the board in your kids' schools, they're being encouraged to do these 7 things, okay? Parents, if you think these things are a really good thing your kids should be doing, let me tell you something. You need to encourage them to do it, but you need to model it before them. Kids do what they are taught, and they are taught by watching, not by listening. If they see you getting up and getting in the Word, they might just get in the Word. If they see you prioritizing time outside, they might actually do that, okay? Those 7 things that we want you to do, this is an opportunity that we have. Our goal in 7 Strong is really not to raise the ceiling. None of this is revolutionary, right? It is all, as a matter of fact, nobody's going to go, wow, we should turn this into the next big Bible study because it's going to change the world. Y'all, nobody's looking at any one of these things and going, it's revolutionary. We're not raising the ceiling with this. Our goal is to raise the floor. We have a whole lot of people in our community, in our culture, and even in our church that can't get the ceiling raised because they're not on level footing yet. And if we can get them to do these 7 simple things on a regular basis, we can actually give them a chance to move forward. We can't fix everything, but we can fix a few things, and 7 Strong is a toolkit that helps adults and students to move forward. So with that in mind, and we're going to come back to that, okay? With that in mind, that's we got a crisis and we got an opportunity. And the opportunity that we've painted for you just now is the opportunity that your kids are being taught here and in school, and then we hope that you will model and teach them. But here's the next step. There are things that are going to give your kids the best opportunity at success in life that I can't give them. There are things that I can't do for them. There are things ultimately that only you as parents are going to be able to pull off. And so we've got 4 things that we want to talk about this evening as next steps, these sort of areas where we can start. And I'll let Angela kick off with the first one on that list.
Okay, and first of all, you were supposed to say that we are not perfect in our house with this. We still struggle with this.
One of us is not.
Right.
It's me.
We still struggle with all of these things, so this is not, us sitting up here saying, oh, we've got it all figured out. That's not it at all.
As a matter of fact, some of these things we messed up, and we had to learn from some mistakes on a couple of these things.
Yeah,
So.
we're still having to backtrack on some stuff. All right, so the first thing is no smartphones until at least 8th grade, or dumb them down. So that means if you give them a phone, it needs to be one that they can only text or receive phone calls on. It needs to be locked down. None of us would let our elementary school student or even our 6th or 7th grader just invite half of the school over or a bunch of strangers to come over to the house and come into their room. Sorry. None of us would allow a bunch of strangers to come into our child's room, people that we don't know.
This is the value of life group, because our entire life group has an inside joke going right now, and none of y'all are aware.
Sorry.
But it's fantastic. Y'all need to get you a life group of inside jokes.
So you're not going to allow a bunch of strangers, adults, different people like that, to come into your home, into your child's room, and have just complete and total access to them. So why would you allow them to have a phone where they have complete and total access to all of these people and all these other things? So you need to lock it down.
I'm sorry, I didn't. We're not good at doing this together, I don't think. I'm not sure. We'll have to ask for somebody.
Okay.
But what I didn't say is with these next steps, the reason we're presenting them in this environment is because we believe they're incredibly important. We believe you can actually do them, but we also know that peer pressure is a good and a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
The reason we're talking about it here is because we believe that you all and we collectively, our kids, have a better chance at winning if we could find a way to come to a consensus, and as a large group, we could all commit to doing some things together, right? And so when she's talking about no smartphones until 8th grade, I'll be honest with what we're asking. We're not just saying this is a good idea. We're asking y'all to consider committing, and we're not going to write that down today. We're asking y'all to consider making a commitment to that with us collectively, so that when your child comes home and says, everybody has a smartphone except me. As a parent, you can either, some of you find joy in saying, I don't care what they have, right? But some of you that are more caring or just soft, you're able to actually have a conversation with your child and say, that's actually not true. I know that not everybody has one, because these are the list of people in our church or in our community. Mm-hmm. Angela and I are going to have a similar conversation like this actually at the library in just a few weeks for our community. These are people around you whose families have made similar commitments to us, and as a result, I know that what you're saying is not true. So that's a reason we're doing this way. So We say no smartphones until at least the 8th grade. There's several reasons for that. There's a book that we recommend a lot to men around here. We've taught it before. The author has an incredible quote that I love. He says, when is the best time to give your kid a smartphone? And he answers it this way: when you're ready for their childhood to end. And the reality is, when we give them a smartphone, they become the god of their own universe, right? This is the same thing with a tablet. Be careful with a 2-year-old and a tablet. When you give them that device, they have access to all the world, okay? And when they have it, they are completely in control of that universe. Why do they pitch a tantrum when you take it from them? Because you've just removed them from being the God of that universe, and you've asserted yourself as the authority, right? When we give our kids these devices, we rob them of their attention. We rob them of their innocence, because porn is coming in on those devices, okay? Do you want to know how some kids are getting hooked on porn? You ready for this? Through the Maps app on their iPhone. Because when you put your phone on lockdown with parental restrictions, nobody thinks that you should worry about the Maps app, right? Okay? But with the Maps app, the cool thing, if you open your Maps app right now and you type in like Ginza because you want to go get dinner tonight, it's going to bring up the directions to the restaurant. It's going to give you the phone number. It's going to give you the hours. It's also going to give you a link to the website. And if you've not locked down your Maps app, then inside of that website, inside of that app, it opens a browser. And so your kid can search for the nearest strip club and it'll pull it up, right? And they can click on that and boom, they've just walked into a whole world of pornography. If you don't believe me, just Google it on your smartphone, not theirs. So no smartphones until at least 8th grade. And look, like my Brooklyn just got a phone, right? It is an iPhone. It looks really smart. It is stupid. She has access to nothing. Why does she have an iPhone? Because I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I don't know how to use anything except an iPhone, right? And I mean, I'm just being honest. And so the best opportunity for Angela and I to be able to guard her mind, her eyes, and her heart is for us to use something that we understand that's native for us so that we can lock that down. If I bought her one of those like things that some of y'all use, like a Droid or something, y'all, I'd have to bring it to one of y'all to handle it. So that's the reason we do. So no smartphones until at least the 8th grade. We could back this up with a lot of research y'all don't want to hear tonight. But Jean Twenge, Twenge, did most of the initial research on this. Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, in The Anxious Generation, has leaned a lot on Jean Twenge's work. Jean Twenge wrote a book called iGen. It's red. It's in my office. I meant to bring it in here and show it to y'all. I would encourage you, if you're interested. It's a little bit dated. Anything written before 2020 at this point is pretty dated as it relates to our kids. She's got another book coming out called Generations. But Haidt's book will reference multiple times. So no smartphones. Number 2, no social media before 16 years old. Okay? Angela, what is social media?
TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure I'm missing something.
Pinterest.
Pinterest. Yeah.
That's right. Pinterest is social media. Do you know, some of y'all don't, that your Pinterest feed will fill up with all kind of reels that your children can scroll through? And what do those reels come from? From the algorithms that Pinterest has decided will attract the most eyeballs from your kids, right? So your daughter has a Pinterest board, and her Pinterest board is filled up with all the things that she wants to have when she gets married. So for a while, it's just filling up with all these married things, right? But then just one day, your daughter says, well, I'm going to look at, I don't know, maybe a new workout to get ready for my wedding day when I decide to get married. And then over time, guess what? Quickly, her feed gets filled up with all sorts of fitness influencers that are convincing her just how fat she is and how desperately she needs all that stuff. Okay?
And from a lot of these apps, if the phone is not locked down and the apps aren't locked down, it will take them to other websites. So you have to be careful with that as well. But also, just so you know, if everyone is following the law, I mean, they're not supposed to be on any of these social media platforms before they're 16. It's just nobody enforces it, and there's not a way to do that. So,
I get to be the mean guy and you get to be the sweet person. If you're the parent who is giving access to the apps that your kids are using, somebody in your household is having to lie for your child to have access to an app that requires them to be 16 if they're not 16 and they're on it.
in full disclosure, we let Aubrey have Pinterest because I thought Pinterest was innocent.
We didn't know it was social media. I mean, we had no idea it was social media.
No, I mean, like, she was looking at it one day because we do cooking stuff, and I thought that's what she was looking at. And then, I mean, it wasn't like terrible things, but she started having some body image issues, and then that's where it came from.
So what do we know about social media right now? 1 in 3 girls, this is the stat I picked up today, 1 in 3 girls in the United States, 1 in 3 teenage girls admits to having suicidal ideation. I sat with a family this week, I cried with a family this week because of a death that was influenced by social media. So, if you don't know, many of your kids are 13 or 14 and you've given them Snapchat. Y'all probably haven't because y'all are great. Some of you might have, okay? But here's the thing. I live in this utopian world where your 13-year-olds don't have it. And then I talk to my wife in elementary school, and I go hang out at the elementary schools where I volunteer, and I discover that there are third graders who have TikTok and Snapchat.
Kindergartners.
Okay. Why do you ruin this for me, honestly? Okay, watch. You ready? You ready? It might be the case that most of your kids who have Snapchat have their location services turned on. What does that mean? Any law enforcement here? That means that they are being live tracked by everybody that's on that app. Okay? And just in case you think that's not actually happening, if you have a kid that has it, just ask them to pull it up and tell you where their friends are. And they can tell you where half of them are.
We were in the upstate, and Wyatt starts talking about somebody he met at Boys State, and all of a sudden he's like, he lives around here. And I was like, how do you know that? He was like, as a matter of fact, we're close to his house. And I'm thinking, you don't even know where we are in Greenville. How do you know this? And he said, well, Mama, it's right here. He's right there. He's close to us. He was 5 minutes away. And Wyatt was just looking where he was on Snapchat because
Okay,
he now has
but
it.
just so we don't just sound like the big bad wolf, okay? Let me, because I'm getting this look from Patty that says, give me a reason. Give me a look. I'm getting a look. All right, so here's what's happening. Here's what's happening. Listen, here's what's happening with social media, okay? It's damaging your girls today. Eating disorders, body dysmorphia. Here's the other thing that it's doing. Social media is fine-tuned to convince your children that they don't understand their gender, they don't understand their sexuality. It is fine-tuned for that. And you give me an 11-year-old who feels like they don't fit in, and they start searching around for people that also feel like they don't fit in, and those algorithms are made by people that are smarter than me and you, and they are designed to do one thing, to attract as many views for as long a time as possible, over and over and over again. Okay? They have an ulterior motive behind them to keep your kid engaged, and the best way to keep your kid engaged is for the content to continue to get more and more and more engrossing, which for boys usually means more sexual or more violent. Okay? For girls, right, it's more emotional. We're dragging them in. Here's the other thing that's happening. So for your girls, it's damaging them today. And it's creating eating disorders and all the other things. For your boys, how many hours, about, I think, what is it, 30%? I think it's 31% of teenage and young 20-age boys, maybe I'm overstating this a bit, are identified as heavy users of video games. For boys, it's more video games than social media. How many hours are they spending a day? Hours, I said hours. 4 hours and up. Okay? Do you know what young men and boys do that are spending 4 hours a day on video games? Nothing. They lose at life. Okay? Now, I know that sounds mean. I understand. I'm telling you what I'm telling you what this atheist social psychologist is saying. I'm telling you what others are saying. This is what the data is telling us. This is not just some fundamentalist Southern Baptist preacher that's telling you. These are men that don't grow up, they don't have responsibility, they don't have jobs, they don't go to college, they don't get married. They do a really good job at finding somebody to let them get them pregnant, then they don't pay for it, and they still live in their mama's basement. Okay? Now, for your girls, they're getting hooked on social media, and it's impacting everything. They forget that social media is a lie, and so they're comparing all of their body image to everything they see on social media. You do that all the time, right? Sorry, unkind, inappropriate.
The other thing that you need to
Inappropriate. Just a bit.
yeah.
Need a hug?
No.
Oh.
The other thing I think, just to bring it back a little bit, like, let's bring it down a
You
notch.
gotta hurry. You're taking a long time.
Is they have hired psychologists, like this is their job, to figure out these algorithms and to figure out how to make it addictive. What I want to say is that it's not just affecting our kids, it's affecting us as adults. So one of the podcasts that I was listening to this week, I got a gut punch. The mom said that she finally broke down, obviously it's been years ago, and she got a smartphone, and she said that was the moment that her kids started having to share her with everybody else. She said, now that I look back, that my kids have shared me with other people from that moment because I'm always connected in some other way. I'm not always present. My feet are not always, or I'm not always where my feet are planted. So that was a gut punch. We are the product. Is that right?
I don't know what you're saying.
Like they're the social media companies, like we're their yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, we're what they're selling, all of them. So you can sign up for free, but what's that line of that movie? But you're selling your ever-loving soul.
I hope that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
Oh,
It's
brother,
good.
where art thou? Your ever-loving soul?
You have a loving soul? All right, so what we're asking you, what we're challenging, encouraging, keep your kids off social media before they're 16.
But you have to mirror that for them. Like,
Yeah, you don't need to be on before you're 16 either.
you need to watch the amount of time that you're on social media.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
And for grandparents, that matters for grandparents too.
Grandparents, throw those tablets away that you give them when they come to your house. Y'all ready for this? You ready? Grandparents that think this doesn't matter to you, I counseled a father recently, right, whose child was exposed to pornography. Where? At grandma's house. Because grandma has screens without any monitoring on it. And grandma thinks that mama and daddy are just overprotective. You did it, honey. What's the big deal? We didn't do it. We didn't do anything like smartphones. We shared a TV screen with everybody else. And we had to fight over who was going to get to watch what, you know? And then when your daddy walked in, you didn't get to watch what you wanted to anyway. At least in my house. Some of y'all might have had a pushover for a daddy, but I didn't. Okay, so no social media. And y'all, Angela won't be mean, I will. There's an integrity issue here if your 11-year-old has social media because you have either lied for them or allowed them to lie to have it. And I know that that's an unkind thing to say. But sometimes the truth isn't sweet. And we're going to have a really difficult time convincing our children that truth matters if we are constantly lying for them.
And I also know that it's a battle, but these things do not need to be in their rooms.
Yeah,
Am I
we
getting
can
it?
go there. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't need to be in their rooms. There needs to be a place, common place where they are plugged up at night.
Just say it the way you really want to say it. Let me do this in the Craig way instead of the Angela way. You're being irresponsible if you're giving your children a phone and allowing them to take it to their bedroom at night.
They're not going to sleep. They're going to wake up in the middle of the night, and they're constantly going to be checking their phones.
Oh, how many notifications does the average teenager get in a 24-hour period? I love my stats. Somebody tell me, how many? What'd you say? 90. Wow, you are old. 400. Who said? On average, more than one per minute. More than one per minute. And that's your kids. Y'all, I'm not making this stuff up. There's an 18-year-old sitting in my office today. I mean, I love y'all. I don't mean this to be a jerk to you. I spend more time with teenagers than almost any of y'all do. I'm telling you, this is true. Right?
And it's not always bad notifications that they're
That's right.
getting.
Yeah.
I mean, like
it might be from their mom who constantly texts them.
I was talking with someone today, and they get a notification every time they get a grade. So every time something is graded, they get a notification.
All right, we've diverged. All right, keep them off social media until they're 16. We got to stay focused or we won't get through this. I told y'all we could keep going for a long time. All right, number 3, we need to be grateful our state government has done something right, and they handled this for us, okay? If they don't drop the ball between now and then. You need to advocate for there to be no phones at school for your kids, okay? So, some of y'all just tuned me out because you want to have constant access to your kid, and if there is a tornado, I need to get in touch with my kid. So y'all just tuned me out. I get it, and I need them to be able to get in touch with me. Y'all, let me tell you something. That's not true. All right, it's not true. So let me explain a couple things to you. Okay, if there is a mass shooter situation at your kid's school, which is a greater chance they're going to get struck by lightning, like those are just truths. There's a much higher chance they're going to get struck by lightning or a tornado. And that already happened in this county recently, so we should be good. Thank you, David. I appreciate you taking one for the team.
Too soon. Too soon.
Too soon?
Too soon.
I don't know. Have you seen? It's a beautiful
Move
facility. Listen, the worst thing that can happen if there's an emergency at your kid's school is for them to be distracted by their phone instead of listening to the adults around them to keep them safe.
I'm going to steal something from Casey Falconberry. Raise your hand in here if you graduated high school without having a phone.
I didn't. You didn't either.
What?
You had a cell phone in high school.
Oh, I did. But not like a smartphone that you could use.
You worked at the cell phone store.
Oh, great day.
She had a pager because she was selling drugs.
True story, I wanted a pager, and my parents wouldn't buy it for me, and I was really upset that I got a phone.
Because she was wanting to sell drugs.
No. Because I didn't want to have
Because she wanted to fit in.
Phone.
All right, okay.
Stop.
Oh, we got to go.
But all of our parents could not get in touch with us during the day, and we all survived.
Oh,
Nothing happened to us. So as parents, we have to also help ourselves cut the cord. I'm speaking to myself. Let them go. It's okay to not be able to contact them. You need to do this anyway because when they go to college, you don't need to be tracking them every minute of the day. Oh, no, I'm looking at you. Also, I'm going to speak as
my man right there.
a school district employee for just a second. When this rolls out, and please pray that it does roll out, please support your administrators and your teachers and the school board, because they're going to be hearing lots of negative things. Please send them positive messages.
Like this needs to happen. The research on this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay? When we take phones out of schools, what happens? Fights go down, eyeballs start looking at each other, grades improve, everything gets. You know what else goes up? You ready for this one, David? You know what goes up or goes down? Absentees go down and attendance goes up. Why does that happen?
They want to see each other.
Because they don't have any choice. They can't communicate. Like, they can stay home right now and still communicate with their friends because their friends have their phones and all the other stuff. When they can't do that, the social pressure to show up at school actually increases. Okay? Our states, as long as they don't drop the ball on this, they're going to do it. Y'all need to, and I'm serious about this, and we might even create a scenario where you guys could sign something and we could send it all together. We need to encourage, like David Brandon is here, pat him on the back and say, David, please do this. And say, I'll support you, because as many of us as tell him, good job, principal, for handling that, he's going to have like 15 angry parents going to call and yell at him and cuss at him because if something bad happens, they can't get in touch with their kid. And David's going to try to convince them that if anything bad happens at that school, their kid's going to be safe. Y'all, we need to break our kids' addiction for 6 hours a day. And it is an addiction. You want to know why some of these kids are pitching a tantrum when they lose their phone? They are addicted, and they're displaying addictive behaviors when you take it away. The same thing that happens when you remove drugs from a drug addict is what's happening when you move your kid's phone from them. Okay? Some of y'all have seen that happen. All right, moving on. We got to hustle. Fourth thing that we want to encourage you is this: more independence in the real world, more supervision in the virtual world. We've gotten this backwards. Okay? Somehow or other, we've decided that if our kids are in our house, they're safe, and if they're out of our house, they're in danger. Okay? Well, when we did that, we decided if they're in our house, it doesn't matter what they're doing because they're at home and I can see them, so they're safe, or they're in their room and they're safe. And if they're out of my house, they're in danger. Okay? First of all, if they're in a room with a closed door and a device with no limits on it, they are not safe. Let me tell you where sexual predators live. They are not driving a van in your neighborhood trying to pick up your kid. They're playing Fortnite with your kid. They're scrolling social media looking, and I mean, like, I'm not trying to, well, I am trying to scare you. I want to scare you a little bit because I want you to understand your kids are going to be exposed to things online, okay? Let me tell you where they're safe. They're safe outside. How many of y'all grew up in the 70s? Look at y'all. I'm so proud. That's brave. That's brave. Good job.
Why are you raising your hand?
Huh?
You didn't grow up in the 70s?
I didn't. I was just giving like I grew up in the 80s. I'm an 80s kid, you know. The world was scary in the 70s. It was dangerous in the early 80s, right? We didn't start seeing crime come down until the 90s. And this isn't just me. That's FBI crime statistics. Our world is safer today than it's ever been. It doesn't matter what the news tells you. It's safer today than it's ever been. Right? I didn't even own a bicycle helmet when I was a kid. Some of y'all see if that's true, right? Now, I own a bicycle helmet now, and my kids wear a helmet. I just think it makes a little bit of sense. But most of y'all didn't own a bicycle helmet. So y'all, we got to flip the script on this. We've got to give our kids independence and responsibility in the real world. We've got to limit their interaction in the virtual world. When that happens, you send your kid into the grocery store to buy milk on their own, the first thing they're going to do is pitch an absolute fit because they're terrified to go walk into that store by themselves and do it. And they've got to ask somebody, and they've got to handle the money, and they're going to pitch a tantrum about it. If you'll pull up in front of that door and park until they get out and then drive off while they go in there and do it, you know what's going to happen? They're going to come back to that car with their chest poked out because they actually accomplished something that mattered. Some of y'all are so afraid that you're going to make your kid cry that you won't even make them go buy milk at the grocery store. Or you won't make them order their own food at a restaurant. You can fix that. They don't eat unless they order it. Okay? And y'all,
Or make their own appointments for haircuts.
yeah, we started doing that. That one was exciting.
And then Dad had to start making his own appointments too.
True. It's true. Y'all, I got this thing figured out. I got a great cosmetologist that texts me when it's time, so I'm in business. I just had a haircut yesterday. Listen, our primary objective is to help your kids thrive. Help you thrive as parents, to help you be a little bit stronger, a little more resilient, okay? People sort of maybe look down their nose at being strong, but nobody ever wanted to be weaker. And there was never a point in time in your life when being a little bit stronger didn't make a hard thing going on in your life a little bit easier to deal with. When we can create stronger kids, stronger humans, stronger community, stronger church, then we have a capacity to withstand the forces and the pressures this world's putting on us. And so our goal tonight, okay, is to introduce y'all to 7 Strong if you didn't know, number 1. Number 2, to urge you. I'll be honest with you, I'm just about ready to. I find myself sort of on a line between begging and pleading with you to do these things and screaming at you and telling you if you don't do these things, your kids are going to suffer. See, I want to beg and plead because I know how your kids are going to suffer, and I want you to make the decision, right? But I'm not sure if everybody acts, responds better to the carrot or the stick. And I like, Angela is quick to remind me and really was nervous about being up here tonight because she doesn't want anybody to walk out here going, well, they don't understand because that's the preacher's house. Y'all, I promise you, we get it. Okay? We know what it's like to have a sixth grader come home 3 times a week and say, I'm the only one who doesn't have a phone and I'm left out. Right? We do. We know what it's like to have a 15-year-old be the only one that doesn't have social media. We know. We know that that's not easy. We know what it is to feel bad and to even feel a little bit guilty because our kids are being left out of things.
But this is one of the things that, and if you listen to the podcast with Jonathan Haidt, or you read his book, or listen to the audio book, which
we did include, by the way, there's a link to the podcast with Russell Moore. If you guys just want to, it's on the. Can you click the QR code on here too? Mm-hmm. And then we had it listed on social media. But go ahead, sorry, honey.
Anyway, but I lost my train of thought.
I guess you should pay better attention. Who's got ADD now, huh?
I just had surgery like a week ago. I'm still struggling.
Wow. Take responsibility, honey. Y'all, we will. If anybody's got questions about this, I've got like a few more things I want to say. If you got questions, we would love to hear or comments. So if anybody, just throw your hand up and I'll shut up and we will try to listen to that. I think as much as anything, so we understand, that's what we're talking about. We understand what it's like to have like our kids come home be the only one.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember. So one of the things that he's talked about in several of his podcasts is they've got like a Wait Till 8 where they're trying to encourage communities to start this together. That way you're not alone. So you can start it with, in your own little neighborhood and different things like that. So there's different ways that you can kind of have groups to show like we're all on the same page. But again, I was listening to another podcast with him yesterday, and he said it's been amazing to watch this take off and how fast it is spreading with people getting behind it. And we were at I'm going to tie this in. We were at youth group this summer. They did a silent disco. If you've never done a silent disco, they're phenomenal. You put on headphones, and there's 3 different channels, and so they turn different colors depending on what channel you're listening to. What's really neat is you can watch how nobody can hear what it is, but everybody starts changing. And then all of a sudden, it's like everybody's on the same, because they want to be listening to what everybody else is doing. Well, this is
social contagion.
There you go. This is the same thing. If we get out there and we start showing other adults, hey, look, this is what we're doing together, and get behind one another and support one another, then when our kids say, well, everybody's got it. No, they don't. And I can list 15 people that don't.
And here's what we're going to do. And by we, I mean Ginger. This is going to be great. I don't know if y'all know this. Ginger,
it's the idea fairy.
I come up with the ideas and Ginger makes them happen. What we're going to do is we're going to create some kind of an online form that you guys can sign. So we're not going to do that tonight, but we are going to put this out there. We'll put it out on social media. We'll send out an email and give you an opportunity so that we can begin to develop a sense of community around these ideas.
And if you've already given your child a smartphone, or they already have,
that's what I was going to say.
Holy cow! Or they
what
already
did you
have.
Say?
Holy cow!
Oh, that ain't what it sounded like. Oh.
Or if they already have social media, and now you want to back it up, it's going to be hard. It's going to be painful.
It's going to be that other thing I thought you said.
God. But have people pray for you, come alongside you, and your kids are going to be mad at you about something. At least this is something important. I mean, they're going to be mad at you about lots of things. So let this be something that they can get upset with you about. You can always back this up. And the research shows that if your kids are on social media and they're exposed to more of this in adolescence and puberty, it does have an effect on their brain development. Our brains change and they can heal, but we've got to break that cycle and we've got to step it away. So there is hope in that.
All right. One of the biggest fights. Any questions, comments?
You said you were going to stop talking.
I'm giving them an opportunity. Did somebody have something? I thought I saw a hand up somewhere. Oh, I made that up. One of the things, when it comes to the phones, let me just tell you, one of the biggest fights that we have had in the past with our student ministry here is when Adam came up with the bright idea that they were not going to allow phones at youth events. Mm-hmm. And I mean like at almost nothing. If they are overnight, there are no phones at all. And a lot of other times there are no phones at all. And there's some friction that came along with that. And I mean, y'all, we got some teenage kids that honest and truly just said, you know, if that's the rule, I'm not going to show up. And that's not my heart, man. I want to do everything I can to get them there. I'm going to tell you what happens when those kids leave their phones. Everything changes. Everything. You forgot that your teenagers know how to have conversations until their phones go away. Mm-hmm. Because, throw me my phone back up here, Luke. Or a phone, it doesn't matter. That's good. They suddenly stop doing this, and they start doing this. Mm-hmm. And it happens that fast. I mean, within 20 minutes of them losing their phone, because everybody around them. What some of the folks, some of the research is suggesting, for Gen Z right now, that's our teenagers, none of them want to get rid of their phone. If you ask them, do you want to get rid of your phone? They all say no. But if you change the question and you say, if everyone else got rid of their phone, would you be comfortable getting rid of yours? And the answer is a resounding yes. They understand that they're hurting them. They just haven't figured out a way to do life without them. Okay? We will get that form up. We'll send it out. We'll post it on Facebook and other social media platforms. I don't know how they will do that yet. I'm sure there's a way, right? We can make that happen. Right? Yes, great. And thanks. You're great.
Sorry, Ginger.
I just want to reiterate what Angela said. Look, we made the mistake of giving one of our kids access to a media platform that they just didn't need at their age, okay? We did that, right? Now, they weren't 10, but still, we did that, okay? We had to look at that child and say, we made a mistake. This is not good for you. You're going to not have access to this anymore. That's my phone. I bought it. We bought it.
Thank you.
Okay? You're welcome. Okay? We pay the plan, pay for the device. My kids didn't get a phone for their birthday or Christmas. I would encourage you never to give them that. Why? Because you want to make sure there's a very clear understanding. They have a phone that belongs to me that I allow them to use. They don't own a phone. My kids don't own anything. I own everything. You know, I got two kids with keys. Those are my vehicles, right? They get to drive them if they'll keep running. Y'all, it's not easy to go home tonight and to look at your kid and to say, I messed up, and things are going to be different. I'm going to tell you something. At some point, you're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. Your kid's going to be, like, it's going to be bad. Like you go home and tell your 13-year-old they're losing TikTok, it's World War III. Okay? That's the reason we're in here together, because hopefully there's somebody you can walk into life group with on Sunday morning and say, it's been really bad at our house. And there's somebody that can look at you and say, I'm praying for you, and I'm sorry it's been bad, but you're doing the right thing. How many of y'all ever had somebody come alongside you and tell you you're doing the right thing, and it just helped just a little bit? Because you know what you moms feel? There's something we men don't have. Men, how many times have you ever felt just like an absolute constant failure as a parent and didn't ever think you're doing the right thing? One of y'all? Wow. Now, how many of you women ever felt that way? It's like 24/7, right? Mom guilt's real.
I feel it for
Lamar
you.
gets mom guilt too, apparently. So thanks, Lamar. Anyway, guys, here's the deal. We have given you nothing that is revolutionary. We've really not given you anything that's magical. We can't even promise you that everything's going to you're going to have perfect kids if you do this. What we want to do is do everything we can collectively to give our kids the best chance to succeed mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. If we want them to be able to have an impact for the kingdom of God, okay, we're going to have to starve them from the world. And when they have 6 hours a day of social media interaction, the world is filling them up. You know, we're losing out on opportunity, okay? Any questions? We want to get you guys out of here on time. We'll hang around and talk about it, or be up here to talk. We'll get that form sent out tomorrow. If you have questions, let us know. But if you have ideas for how we can do a better job presenting this, we're open to that too. We just want you to be aware of the information that we've been. What did I do? Huh? Oh.
Yes, sir.
Now, they have access to YouTube, don't they, Jeanette? Yeah. Oh, really? We could potentially do that in Kershaw County. Jeanette?
Stop it.
Yep.
I won't name names.
Jeanette?
No,
Oh,
I won't name names, but I have a child that lives in my home that was placed in the penalty box by his mother's request because because they were Googling how to get around firewalls and had figured out a way to get around that on their school Chromebook. And so I went.
good thing we didn't name a name.
Shut up. I went and kindly asked if they could take that from him, and they said, well, they need it in school. And I was like, well, we're going to need to do something about this because I'm going to kill him and they are not going to survive. So they were placed in the penalty box because they can do that at the school, so they could only access educational things. So you can ask that of the Chromebooks. I also ask that they not be brought home, and they're not used much at my house once they get home.
It's a great question.
And they're not allowed in their bedrooms. They are not allowed in their bedrooms.
And that goes for that. We have a 17-year-old senior in our house that's going to be gone in a year. We don't want to talk about it.
That we're not going to track every minute, are we?
His phone, his Chromebook, like he doesn't charge his phone in his bedroom. Yeah, it's an alarm clock, y'all. They sell them at Walmart for $7.88.
On the flip side,
I'll get Brian Garbay to buy an alarm clock for everybody. Thank you.
We
Brian.
also don't allow. We don't take our computers up to our room because we're not gonna. That doesn't need to be something that we're saying, okay, you can't do this, but we can. Plus, it doesn't need to be a temptation for us if we're up there by ourselves. The only time that my computer has ever been in our bedroom is on e-learning days when I'm trying to escape all 4 of them and we're all trying to work in the house, or 5 of them when we're all trying to work.
It's amazing how on e-learning days they need me in the office all the time, all the hours. All right, other questions? Oh, yeah. So just know, I mean, Angela works in the school district. I was aggravating Jeanette. If you have internet questions like those kind of things, I'm gonna pick on Jeanette. She's here. She's a member of our church. She could answer those questions.
She doesn't do internet stuff.
She can still answer those questions really well. She knows. Jeanette knows. Y'all can ask her. Yeah. So we got a few teachers and stuff. Yeah, Jay.
Supposed to be January of 2025.
So there's actually they rent couple of articles about it yesterday and today. So they're trying to finalize, and look, they're trying to finalize exactly what the plans will look like. It appears as though they're going to give some flexibility. They're trying to decide how much flexibility they're going to give to each district or even each local school. Y'all, this is, if you don't, I'd be happy to have a 20-minute conversation with you about why, and I can send you some data and information about why. Even your kids don't need them at lunch. Just to be totally honest, like they don't need them at lunch. And they don't need them at lunch because when they have them at lunch, they're not actually interacting with humans. They're not interacting with people, okay? So,
and it stops that break, the detox that's going on in their brain. It stops that, so they don't need it at all. And that also includes the smartwatches, all of that.
Yeah, everything.
They don't need any of it.
They're not going to have access to watches, smart headphones, any kind of smart device. But I mean, just again, if you think that they really need it at lunch and it's okay, right? Y'all, that's like saying cigarettes are bad for you, so we're not going to smoke cigarettes, except you're going to have a hit at lunch every day. Okay, that's exactly what it is. It's a dopamine hit. What?
Just kidding.
You know, we need to go because I'm tired. All kidding aside, we do at 7:30. Y'all got to go get your kids. The people that have your kids are going to hate me, and they won't hate her, but they will blame me for all of it. We'll hang around and talk about it. These are things that are passions for us because we work with kids day in and day out. But we got a lot of educators that are in here tonight. I promise you, y'all, they're seeing the things we're talking about, and they're like the struggle is real for our kids. And here's the deal: it's not their fault; it's our fault. Okay. I can talk to y'all about limiting your kids' phone use. I can't talk to them about it. Why? They don't actually have the ability. It's like me giving a heroin addict a needle and the drug and saying, don't use it. Y'all are, I mean, it is that addictive. I was aggravating Brian earlier. Brian's back here in the back. Brian, he is one of my dearest friends. He and I have a couple of rules with one another, okay? There's one rule that he's given me for him. And that's if I ever find out that he's on a plane to Las Vegas, what am I supposed to do? Go get him. Go get him. Whatever it takes. Like if he's on his way there, something has gone really wrong. And if I have to shoot him to get him home, I am to go there. I mortgage everything I own. I go get him because this is why. Here's what he knows. He knows if he went to a place like that, he'd lose everything he owns. Okay, he would be broke. Poor April would be a pauper living on the street. And that's the reality of what he knows. Y'all, those same machines in Las Vegas that have been designed to make sure that Brian Garbay would leave poor. Those same people that design those machines design everything on your phone. Okay, and we.
That's why they do this.
Yep, that's why they scroll just like a slot machine. So that's why you have a like button on Facebook and a love button on Instagram and whatever they have on Twitter these days. I don't remember. That's why those things are there. That's 100% why it's to keep you addicted. And there's a bottomless scroll. That's why Google. Y'all remember Google don't always be a bottomless scroll. Right? You remember you used to go down, you'd have 10, you click over. They went to everybody's bottomless scroll now because bottomless scroll keeps your attention longer. It's an infinite loop. Okay. Anyway, we're passionate about these things. I don't know how I got on that. We're really passionate about this. I would just talk about it for a long time because I'm concerned for your kids. I care about your kids. Your kids can't break these phone cycles on their own. They just can't do it. Okay. You've got to put the rules in place. And that means taking them away and having limitations. What time do they go off at night? What time are they allowed to be on them in the morning? What access do they have? You own them, okay? They're your kids. It's our responsibility to raise them in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. I got to hush. Thank y'all for coming.